Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
8:37 on the Morning Majority. The Bryans are here.
Yes, we are.
And Mary Catherine Ham, who I want to make sure to say hi to. Hey.
Everybody wants to say hi to Mary Catherine, and it's like Mary Catherine Ham and those other guys.
But most importantly, I'd like to say hi to Chris Horner, Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute and author of Power Grab: How Obama's Green Policies Will Steal Your Freedom and Bankrupt America. How's it going, Chris?
Very well. Good morning.
So I just kind of need a progress update here. The EPA, lacking cap-and-trade legislation, none of it has passed, wants to just change the rules and start regulating greenhouse gases under a regulatory structure. Many people fighting against that. What is the progress of that that process? Where are they? What fights are left to be fought against this?
These are those other ways to skin the cat the president discussed in his shellacking press conference.
Yeah.
We're in court. The Competitive Enterprise Institute, as are some attorneys generals and others, some regulated parties, trying to block this whole suite of rules. These key ones are called the train wreck. This is an effort to regulate greenhouse gases through the back door, and then they have rewritten the Clean Air Act through a rule, and they openly acknowledge this, but that's okay because it's them. And they say the reason is if we were to implement the first rule, why, it would lead to absurd results. And there's a legal doctrine of absurd results, therefore you can't interpret the law that way. But what they're doing is acknowledging the first rule was wrong, therefore we need to rewrite the actual statute as unelected bureaucrats, because as we all know, lawmakers weigh in on these policies unless and until the unelected bureaucrats feel they've waited long enough. So now they have called for, in their pleadings filed on Friday, the hiring of 230,000 more bureaucrats at a cost of more than twice their existing budget, just to handle this.
To handle the original statute, which they created the other rule to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
So that is an accurate story then, because some people are saying, well, it's not really true. They actually said they need to hire more than 200,000 people at the EPA.
They said if you listen to our first rule, why we'll have to do that, and that would be really bad. Therefore, you better let us rewrite the statute. I don't know if courts fall for that. We'll find out.
All right. Here's my question to you: is Solyndra going to stick? And by that I mean, will the American people realize how fraudulent it is? I mean, look, we could talk about cap and trade and stuff the EPA does in the background, and, here in Washington, we obviously follow it, we know it. But when you put Solyndra on the table, it's $535 million in loans or thereabout that went to a company that failed almost right away, and everybody was, waving red flags about this company. Will it actually stick, in your opinion?
Well, if it does, that $500 million will prove to have been worth it, because we have been throwing good money after bad on these things that we're now told, isn't it time we began investing in? I don't know how you can get away with that for 60 years. I'm holding in my hand here a headline from the Wall Street Journal of 1978. Solar power seen meeting 20% of needs by 2000. It's now less than 1%, even after this global warming-inspired binge. Carter may seek outlay boost in 1978 of something, isn't it time we began investing in now? Look, this stuff was invented, it was patented, solar-powered electricity back in 1888. And we've been funding it since about 48. And so if we finally learn that all of these talking points, well, we'll lose the great solar panel race to China and so on, people are starting to realize China's only making these things to sell them to us, and as soon as our politicians drop this vain pursuit of saying, look at me, I, quote, did something, or we should be making these things, China will retool their industry to make something else our politicians force into the economy.
We now know that Larry Summers and Timothy Geithner were raising concerns about this program that funded Solyndra. We now know that the OMB was raising flags and complaining about the pressure they were receiving from the White House, from offices of the Vice President of the United States and the offices of the Chief of Staff at the time, Rahm Emanuel. Were they so blinded by their policy that they turned a blind eye to the fact that this was such a business that was so likely to fail miserably? I mean, the Bush administration took a look at this company and said, we'll take a pass on that one.
Right, and remember, that president gave several speeches saying we're going to run the economy on weeds, and yet this idea was so bad it, so far as I can tell, was the first bad idea of energy they did not embrace. And yet, within 5 days of the inauguration, the emails show, it was revived. So, A, it was politics for this particular company, but B, you're right, Brian, it was this idea, well, we can force this. We know how, that endearing belief that they know how to spend people's money and that they can force breakthroughs in something that they have mysticized and romanticized. Remember, it's a solar panel. It's not flubber. It was invented 120-something years ago, and yet they continue to believe that that we can make the sun shine, or we can make it produce solar power at night, like it turns out they were doing in Spain, because the subsidies were so great. It prompted people to wheel out diesel generators into the solar fields at night, and nobody bothered checking because the politicians were so wedded to the idea of claiming we produced all this solar power. So a lot of dogma and ideology saying, I know we can, I think we can, either way we should. But also with this company, there appears to be a lot of political interest.
Is there anyone watching the billions of dollars that are yet to go out from this fund that the president made sure to save during this last budget fight?
The Hill's trying, and they're trying. They tried to use that money unspent, at least in the electric car, also invented in the 1880s, by the way, and the loser. Use some of that money for the disaster relief. But what we've learned is, well, the Democrats generally will say we must spend less money. So far we've learned not if it means using styrofoam cups in the House, and not if it means throwing less money down the electric car, windmill, solar panel rat hole. So we will find something sometime that indicates we should spend less money, or at least reduce the rate of growth. But right now, we're still trying to account for some of it, apparently.
All right, Chris, great to have you on the show. We appreciate it as always.
Thank you.
Chris Horner, Senior Fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, also author of the book Power Grab, How Obama's Green Policies Will Steal Your Freedom and Bankrupt America. It's always great to have a guest who has a copy of the Wall Street Journal from 1978 in his hand.
I love it.
As he's doing an interview.
The Internet's a